Hello, fellow viewers. Hello, Africans, and thanks for joining us wherever you were watching us. It's Views on the Continent on Afrique Media. Today, we are discussing the Anglophone crisis in Cameroon with a special look at a recent happening. That's the Prime Minister of the country dispatching agents of peace to the restive northwest and southwest regions of the country. And of course, we are going to discuss the resolutions of the national dialogue, because these agents of peace are going to the field to explain to the people what they arrived at, to help them better understand what they discussed during the 5 days while they were in Yaoundé. Before I get into introducing the panel, or my panelists here in the studio with me, I would like us to take a listen to this report, which was done by Rita Moto. Rita Moto has been following up the situation in Cameroon, and she did this report for us. Take a listen.
Over a month after the major national dialogue, the Prime Minister and Head of Government, Chief Dr. Joseph John Ngute, who was in charge of coordinating the historic event, has set the stage for peace to return in the troubled northwest and southwest regions. After overseeing the session that held from September 31st to October 4th, the Prime Minister resolved at dispatching 2 delegations to the northwest and southwest regions with firm instructions of sensitizing the population on the recommendations of the major national dialogue. The delegation of the southwest region was headed by His Lordship Andrew Kmer, Bishop of the Manfe Diocese. The Southwest Caravan was launched at the Boye Council Hall on Saturday, November 16. From there, several teams were being dispatched to various localities to explain to the people what was discussed at the major national dialogue in Yaoundé. According to Bishop Nkea, the discussions held at the dialogue have not reached the grassroots, so administrative and religious authorities are taking out the caravans to the various divisions, subdivisions and villages to explain to the people the discussions and expectations from that dialogue. The prelate added that nothing was going to be detailed on the content of the much-talked special status for the moment, but urged the population of the Southwest to know that the regions concerned are special. The same caravan was also launched in the Northwest region on Saturday by His Eminence Christian Cardinal Tumi, as they now prepare to get to work. This comes at a time after the President of the country, His Excellency Paul Biya, had dispatched several teams and administrative authorities to reach out to the people with humanitarian assistance. But the Prime Minister, Chief Joseph John Ngute, believes that using religious authorities will be able to appease the hearts of the people in the Northwest and Southwest regions. This comes at a time when the country is preparing to elect its new representatives in the legislative and municipal elections that are slated for February 9th, come 2020.
Thank you so much, Rita Moto, for that report. And now joining us in the studio to discuss the Prime Minister's caravan to the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon and the special status that is being granted to these 2 regions is Dr. Nick Ngwanyam. Hello to you, Doctor, and thanks for joining us in the studio this afternoon.
Thank you, Gina. It's a pleasure to be with you this afternoon. And you know, we've been discussing quite a couple of subjects and topics in this studio, but I think that this one today is particularly very sensitive, and one must be very careful what one is saying.
Exactly.
You know, we have to talk in a manner as to educate the public and responsible in our communication, but yet don't hide the truth.
Exactly. And now talking about educating the public, Doc, the first thing is we have a good number of people who do not actually understand what a special status is. So some of them, maybe they don't understand what it is. They think it's already bad, or it's good, or it's not the right, probably a way to get out of the crisis. But then what to you is this special status for the 2 regions?
You know, we're in a season of dialogue. The president started a dialogue, and then yes, we went and sat in that hall for a couple of days, and that was dialogue. But the dialogue is continuous. It's not just a one-day affair or two-day affair. So we keep digesting and churning and going down the road until we come to a point where we are happy. And then even when we do get to that point, the dialogue will continue as long as the nation lives. So dialogue is not a one-day thing, or it's just an on and off kind of thing. It's a continuous process. So you will see whatever decisions were arrived at, as the time is going on, a lot of other things are changing on the ground because we live in a dynamic society, and therefore positions shift a little bit, and then we get a clearer understanding. So just to clear the air a little bit about special status. Special status is that thing that was written in the Constitution in 1996 and has been sitting there, and nobody ever cared about it until the guns started to spit fire. And then, someone reminded us in the hall that there was something for Anglophones called special status, which was laid in the cupboard for 20 years. So we are looking at it, and everybody, when they said there was something for Anglophones like that, we were all wondering what the hell it was. And, even for many of us, we had to go Google and then try to understand what it is. And when we read about it, it tried to make some sense. And that special status is anything. It's anything. It could start from here and end over there. But in the context of Cameroon, it could start from the decentralization as we are being given now, and then it would span through, I don't know what, cross through federation and only end at confederation. So that's the span. And for special status to be able to solve the problems in the light of what we are living today, we have to think about it very carefully, because about a couple of us, from the diaspora in Cameroon, we worked on a document, what we called our contribution to the special status. And I must say that there were other groups too.
I've been seeing that on social media.
That's correct. I must say that there were other groups too working, and these documents were given to the Prime Minister. And we worked on that document before President Paul Biya's interview in Paris. So we were working on the document in the context of where we were at the time. But when the president says that, up until when he was speaking, the hidden agenda was that of assimilation of the 20% into the 80%. So anything that was put in place, it doesn't matter what was happening, the management style, whatever, up until that moment, the objective was to integrate, or to make the 20 to become part of the 80. But from that moment that he spoke and said that these 20 will be let alone to do their own things, then the definition of special status become more impressive, which means that in whatever we asked for in the document we wrote as special status probably constitutes only 60% of what we really would have liked, and there's still some 40% hanging out there, and that should be thrown in the basket to make it even richer.
Okay. Now, Dr. Nick, I would like to put to you the words of President Paul Biya while he was in Paris during the second edition of the Paris Peace Forum. Now, he said, we've decided to solve the crisis in the English-speaking regions by putting in a special status that recognizes the specificity of Anglophones in Cameroon. So, what do you, people are still finding it difficult to understand, but then from what he was saying that it was actually difficult to assimilate Cameroonians, but then now to assimilate the English-speaking Cameroonians, but then now they're trying to just recognize that they are special, they have their own way of living, and they want to recognize this through the special status.
If you've done chemistry, then you realize that you didn't have to take 56 years to notice it. If you take kerosene over here, and you take water over here, and you put them in one container, and you can shake them the rest of your life, it's not going to mix up.
Exactly.
You can shake it, while in the course of shaking it, you are dispensing energy. While you are shaking it, looks like you've done it, but as soon as you stand it, it separates. So he's saying that after having done that experiment for 56 years, they realized that those two things cannot be mixed, and therefore he's going to leave Anglophones alone. That's what he meant. And then to leave them alone he now says that we are going to use this tool called special status so that they can be on their own. And so the word special status was understood differently up until that time that he spoke, you know. Then after he spoke, the word special status took up a better meaning, and it was more broad and could end up anything like even federation is special status, confederation is special status. And if he really wants Anglophones to be happy and be who they were, then he has to do what Anglophones at least have been clamoring for, which is that federation or confederation. I mean, of course, we are talking about being that one state, you know, that one country that is not split. I mean, if we are going to be in one country that is not split, the best definition of special status would be a federation or confederation.
Okay, federation or confederation, but then we have people who are still talking about decentralization. We've had, we're having echoes of decentralization, and just right after a special status being granted to these regions, another resolution from the major national dialogue was decentralized local entities.
Well, decentralization is not a bad thing.
Okay.
But it depends where you begin where you begin your journey. You know, you have to define where you know, if we were talking of decentralization in the context of what we've been mentioning before, where you could identify West Cameroon and East Cameroon as two entities, because that's the foundation of the Cameroon we have. The foundation of the Cameroon we have is West Cameroon and East Cameroon coming to live together. Once you destroy that foundation, nothing begins to make sense. And that's why we are having trouble today. And if we are going to be able to solve these problems, we have to go to that foundational definition. And when we get to that foundational definition, we realize that even then it's not enough. And then we have to cause decentralization as it is in that document within these federated states or whatever. And then you will see that management will be a lot easier. That's what is going to save Cameroon.
Okay, thank you, Doc. Now, if you're just joining us, it's Views on the Continent on Afrique Media, and the numbers are on the screen. Feel free to use any of the numbers to call us, to tell us what you think about today's topic. We are discussing Cameroon, and just after the major national dialogue, we're looking at 45 days, about 45 days after that, the Prime Minister of the country has sent a caravan and some peace agents to the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon, and when the program began, we had a report saying that His Eminence Cardinal Christian Toomey is leading the Northwest delegation, and Bishop Kmer of the Mamfe Archdiocese is leading the delegation of the Southwest region. But then we are seeking to find out today what Cameroonians think about this decision, sending people down to the field to explain to people better what the special status is and other resolutions arrived at after the major national dialogue. Now, Doc, I'm going to come back to you. We are still looking at some of the resolutions arrived at, and I really want you to talk to some Cameroonians who are really worried. Now, one of the resolutions was to take specific measures to ensure quality of English and French in all aspects of national life. But then, a few days ago, we had a communique that was put out by the National Broadcasting Corporation in Cameroon. I'm talking about the CRTV, the national station. It was just in French, and the English document was nowhere to be found online, and people were really disgruntled about it, and others who were trying to translate and making errors, but then they kept on crying, where is the commission on bilingualism and nationalism, and multiculturalism? They were calling on them to look at this matter, saying that most documents are still not translated. We have it just in French. Now, why is it taking such a long time to ensure the equality of English and French in all aspects of national life?
Well, it is taking a long time because old habits die hard. Now, you were making reference to some of those resolutions that were arrived at in Yaoundé during the Grand National Dialogue. But before we get lost into these small problems, let me try to explain something and paint a picture so that we really understand where we are and what the issues are. Cameroon has been going through a lot of difficulties. And you know, we got to a point where in the last 3 years, on the Anglophone side of the country, guns have been spitting fire and more than about 2,500 to 3,000 people have been killed. Many homes and schools and public places have been burnt, and a lot of people have gone into the bushes. Some have crossed our national territories and gone to Nigeria, and then some have migrated to the French-speaking part of the nation, and most of our villages are kind of like desolate. So that's the grand picture. And so when the major national dialogue is called, the major national dialogue was not called because documents were not translated into French or English. That was not a raison d'être.
Okay.
So let us try to get a few things clear here. For those of you who have done management or have read, you would understand that there's a rule called Parota's rule, the 80-20 rule. And the president himself said that the raison d'être for calling the national dialogue was to be able to solve the Anglophone problem. And then onto that, he tacked a few things. And I think that's where the problem is coming from, those few things that he tacked on.
Okay.
The Anglophone problem should have constituted 90% of the job description of the major national dialogue.
Okay.
90% of the work that they were doing, and 90% of their resolutions, and 90% of the success would have to do with the Anglophone problem. The 10% is about living together, all that's distraction. So there were 8 commissions at that major national dialogue to look at all the problems that are plaguing the country, especially the Anglophones. And when you look at those commissions, only one had the ability or the possibility of beginning to address the Anglophone problems, besides the other problems in the country. And if you take a summary of the problems of the country, number 1, the problems of the country are the Anglophone problem. 2, governance issues. 3, corruption. 4, poverty. 5, youth unemployment and poor training, lack of technology. You can leave them at this, at just 5. Now, even with all these 5 problems, the Anglophone problem is the one that can actually wreck the country. And therefore, this major dialogue was supposed to solve that particular problem. And therefore, when you look at the keys that were put on the table to begin to address this problem, keys defined as 8 commissions, only one commission looked like it had the ability to solve the Anglophone problem, and that's the Decentralization Commission. But again, what was in that package and what exactly did they do? Everybody kept their eyes on that to see what would come out. And it is because at the end of the day, the only thing that came out of that box that looked like the way forward was that thing that it was called the special status.
Okay.
So you have this thing over here called the special status, and you have the 7 other what do I call them? Resolutions that were arrived at. Those 7 other resolutions, amount to just 10% of trying to solve the problems in the nation. And people want to understand what this special status is all about, because that's what will address 90% of the problems. Are you getting what I'm saying? Yes. So as long as we don't yet know what special status means, we are beating around the bush. That is the problem. So it's very important that someone should sit and then say, when I say special status, this is what it means: A, B, C, D, and it starts from here and ends over here. And given also that the president said that the objective of the nation going forward from the Francophones' point of view, or the government's point of view, is no longer to assimilate the Anglophones, then we are now saying that the definition of what the content of that special status will be made wider in view of this new vision that the president has given us. Because the president cannot open the doors and the heavens so wide, and then we ask for very little. That is the problem. And therefore, I'm saying again that all that other thing, your translation, whatever, it just addresses 10% of the issues. And if people are going on in the provinces to talk about that peace and whatever, so they're dealing only with 10%, and they don't yet have answers to 90% of the issues.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Nis. Fellow viewers, if you're just joining us, it is Views on the Continent on Afrique Media, and today we are discussing Cameroon and the Anglophone crisis. Now, the Prime Minister of the country has sent a caravan. He has equally sent a group of people headed by His Eminence Christian Cardinal Tumi and Bishop Nkea of Manfe, to go and explain to the people the decisions arrived at during the national dialogue. And now we are discussing all of these today on the program, asking these questions. What do Cameroonians think about this move that the Prime Minister has made 45 or 47 days after the national dialogue that held early October and late September? And equally, what Cameroonians think about the special status. Is it really going to solve the Anglophone crisis? And we've actually read out the resolutions that were arrived at. Before we get into your reactions, I would just like to read them out again. The first was to grant a special status to the Northwest and Southwest regions in conformity with Section 62, Sub 2 of the Constitution. Second, take specific measures to ensure equality of English and French in all aspects of national life. Reinforce autonomy of decentralized local entities. Improve upon the infrastructure of judicial services throughout the country. Strengthen the humanitarian assistance program to better serve internally displaced persons. Ensure or institute a spatial plan to reconstruct the conflict-affected areas. Popularize the head of state's offer of amnesty to combatants who drop their weapons and enter the reintegration process. And the last was to create a team responsible for mediation with radicalized members of the Cameroon diaspora, those living in the USA, in Europe and other parts of the world. Now, those are the resolutions, and we're going to begin receiving your reactions, fellow viewers. We're going to start with our first participant of the day. Hello to you, and thanks for joining us on Views on the Continent. Call center is, I don't know if that caller is ready. We are having difficulty getting that person. I'm going to repeat again. Hello to you, and thanks for joining us on Afrique Media. Go ahead with your contribution.
Reach on. This country to me is sick and needs cure, because I wonder why men of God whom we respect so much to accept such a mission. If it is it that they want to use our own people, our own brothers and sisters against us, the English speaking people? I'm sorry to say this because it has failed before the arrival of this decision. And to make it clear, it won't solve the problem. These men of God even heard what the president said in France, how they have been trying to assimilate us for years now, and it's not working. So therefore, how would they even start to? How are they going to start telling people that they have come out with resolutions like this that they haven't even discussed? They haven't even decided. They haven't even come out with a so-called special status content. How are they going to start? Sometimes I used to ask myself, where are these leaders taking us to? Where are they really taking the Cameroonians people to? Most especially those of the Northwest and Southwest region. This government knows exactly what to do to solve this problem, to end this problem. They know everything, but they have decided to stay mute, and they think they can use our own people against us. They have failed. They have failed. Thank you very much, Gina, for this opportunity. Have a blessed day.
Okay, thank you so much. That's a Ngute Primus, but then I would just like to inform you that there is already the content about the special status already exists, and it's actually a recommendation from a special status work group, and Dr. Nick Ngwanyam is part of that committee that drafted out this document. I think it's about 8 pages.
Well, I like to throw some light on that.
Okay.
To say that we were not mandated by the government to write that document. It was just a group of us who happened to be proactive. Those, some of us in Cameroon and some in the diaspora, and we put together ideas that we thought could come close to solving our problems. And we are not the only group. Other groups too did theirs. Probably we made more noise about our own, but others did their thing and sent them silently to the Prime Minister. And don't forget, when we are talking about special status, the document that the Cardinal wrote about federation and whatever, he himself just carried that document and drop it.
There's so many pages, I think over 300.
Yes, and just drop it in that box called special status, and we'll still be good to go.
Okay.
My little worry is this. I have a little worry. Before we had that Grand National Dialogue, the Cardinal and others, they begged that they should have a general Anglophone conference before this thing. And then the Cardinal was treated very shabbily. You remember, may he so rest in peace, the mayor of Boya,
yes,
even insulting the Cardinal
Kmer,
and telling everybody who cares, that even the president allowed, he would never hold. The Cardinal was treated so shabbily, with no respect for his person, no respect for his age, no respect for his understanding. I mean, that's the list of things that could be. I mean, just have some respect for an elderly person who is trying to genuinely solve a problem. We don't give him that respect. Then we turn around and take him, and we are sending him to the Northwest to go and talk about what? Probably you don't know the Cardinal. You could send him on whatever mission. He's not going to tell the people what the Prime Minister has said. He's going to tell the people what he has grown to believe. And even Bishop Kmer is not going to say this is what the Prime Minister has said. The Prime Minister does not give him orders. They will tell you what God expects and what should be done. And then, so it's good that we come to a realization where we think that these people, they have some respect amongst the people and will be listened to. That's already the beginning of of a solution. But if we had that mindset, when this problem started in 2016, all the bishops sat together and wrote down a document that was ignored. And they went down to the Yaoundé and begged and begged and begged and were ignored. Many of them have been killed, kidnapped, and so on, and kicked around. That's just how badly we treat our men of God. It's very unfair that we should be using them now to do this problem. If we are using them, let's use them in the right way so that they actually solve the problems. Because I would have expected that Pa Mukete, who spoke at the national dialogue, I think he spoke the truth according to some people. That's the person who should be on the field to be explaining to people the truth that he was explaining, not the cardinal.
Okay, thank you so much, Doc. Thanks for that. And now we're just going to go back to our callers. We have, just to remind you before we get this caller, so many people already connected on the program. It's live on Facebook. We're having a good number of comments right there on Facebook. So you could join us. You could leave your own say there, or you could call us using the numbers on the screen. Let's take this next caller. Hello to you, and thanks for joining us on the program, sir. Hello, sir. We can hear you. Go ahead with your contribution.
Okay, Madam Regina and Dr. Accept my greeting this afternoon. I'm called Revelation. I'm calling from the central region of Cameroon. I have a question for a doctor in the studio. What I want to ask is that us Anglophone, we ask for federation because we know that if they give us federation, we will be able to elect our governors, to elect our mayors, to elect our Jews. They will not sit in Yaoundé and appoint a Francophone to go and be ruling Anglophone. They will not sit in Yaoundé and appoint a Francophone to go and destroy the culture of the people of Northwest and Southwest. In this thing that they call, because I call it things that they call special status, will they permit us to elect our governors, or will they permit us to elect our Jews? Will they permit us to manage the little resources we have? Will they permit us to do things on our own? Because I see there is no way that we can continue doing things, one and the same things with these people here. Because they already show us that they consider us as second-class citizens. Even right away, I'm now speaking to you like this. Because if you are speaking with Francophone, they say that you are Anglophone. They will just say that it's you people that want to separate this country. So the government already put it in their mentality that all Anglophones stand for separation, when that is lie. My question is simple. Will they permit us to elect our governor, or to elect our Jews, or to manage our resources, doctor? Because that is all what we want. If they give us what type of statutes without permit us to choose our leader, I think that will not solve the Anglophone problem. They are unable to permit us to have a meeting between us to decide what is good for us. That is why they refuse the idea of Cardinal Tumi, the Anglophone General Conference. If they are unable to permit us to have meeting on our own, will they permit us to elect our governor, our Jews? Doctor, please tell me if what they call special statutes will permit us to do that. Thank you.
Doc, do you want to react to that before we? Okay.
Yes. Of course, you know the president himself went to France and said that he has to do what he must do to solve the problem. So I guess if whatever you have said, if you could write it properly and send it to him, he would just stamp it, and that would be the solution. Thank you very much.
Okay, but then how do they send it to him now?
What? Send him to him? You want to send something to the president? Very easy. So
okay.
that's a contribution. And
right,
yeah, I can understand what he's saying. We're laughing about it, but what he is saying is the basic thing. You know, when we are saying autonomy, you cannot be. I mean, you know the damage that that government delegates have done all over the whole place, not letting councils to breathe. You know, the kind of like. I mean, that's what people are afraid of. Okay. They think that this special status, you know, we might elect our governors, then they will appoint someone to come and sit over the governors. If that's the situation, then forget it. We must elect our. In fact, if we had to do this thing right and really solve the problem, we should be having a prime minister of West Cameroon, then a governor, an elected governor for the Northwest, an elected governor for the Southwest, then the other elected people coming down there. Then Yaoundé can send an inspector or somebody who comes. He is not directly in charge, but he sits under there and he's keeping an eye on some of the things, but he has no ability to change things. If he sees anything that is not good, he should report to Yaoundé, but he does not interact directly with the people.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Nick. And now we're going to get back to our callers. We have so many of them who want to have their say on this topic today about Cameroon's Prime Minister, Dion Ngute, dispatching agents of peace to the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon to help solve the Anglophone crisis and, of course, explain to these people what the resolutions arrived at during the major national dialogue actually means. Now, let's get this other caller. Hello to you, and thanks for joining us on Views on the Continent.
You are on program.
Can I start off?
Yes, go ahead with your contribution.
Okay. I want to first of all greet the doctor on your studio, Dr. Guanyam. I want to greet your presenter. The first question is, why should this mistake keep on going on? This crisis was supposed to be solved things. When you created, the crisis started, they created the bilingual and multicultural money squander. They have held the national dialogue. Now they have come out with their resolution. Nobody knows what is in that resolution. They are talking of special status. Now people don't even know the special status, except the Cameroon and the Bishop Mkia, who are going about who knows the special status, because the population don't know the special status. In my opinion, I would have wished that they publish a special status and everybody reads before these people go around sensitizing it. Everything they are doing now is wastage of time, waste of resources, and waste of everything. Trust me, if people want to really actually take this thing seriously, they should publish what is in the content of the special. They should publish the content of the special status before the bishop goes around. That's all what I want to say. Thank you.
Now, before we get back to you, Doc, to react on to continue analyzing the program or the topic of the day, let's continue with our callers. We have another participant. Hello to you, and thanks for joining us on the program.
Hello, Gina. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, televiewers of Afrique Media. Gina, actually, Gina, yeah, from the topic, it's quite a very wonderful topic. It's quite a very wonderful topic and a sensitive issue we should talk about as Cameroonians, because it concerns us a lot, Gina. Gina, when we talk about the resolutions which the president has done, I don't know, I might start in any order from the resolution, Gina, regarding what he is saying that the combatants, because they are granting amnesty only to combatants. From the message which I saw, Gina, it makes me already, I'm not comfortable with that, because if you say you are granting amnesty only to ex-combatant who has surrendered and come to reintegrate themselves, Gina, that is actually not a sincere way of giving. What they would have done, they would have given amnesty to everybody concerned, those who are in jail, before they could talk anything, because they understand the people who are in this matter, Gina. So to me, again, it is not still a sincere issue. And if you say they should emphasize an issue of the decentralization process, Gina, the same thing, we had been working on decentralization more than 5 years ago. It brought us back again to the same thing. So it will still take us to the same area again, Gina. This is not a sincere, these are not sincere resolutions. And what again, they mentioned something about everything in life about Cameroon, national life should be between French and English. Gina, it takes us back to the area they are struggling to construct the judiciary system very well. It will take us to the reason why the lawyers went to the street, because of the same thing. And now you pretend you want to reconstruct. When they started, you held them hostage, you brutalized them, and you locked them up. Now you want, what do you want to, Gina? I don't know. Sometimes I don't know how the ministers, or they look at Cameroonians as fools. I will not say Cameroonians as fools, and even Anglophones as fools. People from the southern Cameroon, they look at us to be foolish people. Yeah, the people they are sending in the field, they are actually good people. They could do something. Cardinal Tumi and Bishop, I think Kwede, something like that. They are people of caliber which people could trust that they could mediate something. But then all the resolutions which they are giving Gina, and again, they are saying they should increase humanitarian aid to the internally displaced. If you remember Gina very well, I remembered some amount of money was contributed, sometime almost about 12 billion francs CFA. I think it was given by foreign aiders. When this money came in, it was given to the minister, it's a Minister of Territorial Administration, Gra Tango. This money, we knew this money would have gone to help other people. But later, Gina, again, we did not have an account about this aid. But later we saw Cameroonians again within the territory, money was still contributed for the same purpose. And that was the second time. I'm reiterating this because it was the second time.
Much blessed with thanks for your contribution. We're going to stay with our participants before we come back to our panelists here in the studio. We have another caller. Hello to you and thanks for joining us on Views on the Continent.
Good afternoon, viewers and lovers of Afrique Media. This is Photo Brian calling from the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Yeah, Gina, following the dispatchment of some delegates by the Prime Minister Ngute after the national dialogue, I don't think this is good news for the English speakers, because their main objective is on the special status and nothing else. And this is a big scam for the people of Southwest and Northwest region of Cameroon. Because let's be frank, I don't think two states came together and formed a federation of Cameroon. That was the Federal Republic of Cameroon that was headed by Amadou Ahidjo. After some time, because they knew what they wanted to do, to abolish the other state, to silence the other state, they turned it to a United Republic of Cameroon, from United Republic to La République du Cameroun. Now, Gina, listen. A state cannot give another state a special status. It will not work. Not in Cameroon. It will not work. These people have two different cultures, and they have two different ways of reasoning. And I don't think the French way of assimilation, I mean, they will stop the their manner of assimilation. Okay, listen to what Bishop Kea asked in Boya the other day. Even the governor was unable to answer a single question. Like, what is special status? And then people are talking of special status, still talking of decentralization. Meaning that even if we have the given the special status, they will still control everything in our place, appoint ministers and all those things. I just want to make you the public know this. There is no way the special status will work. It will not work. It's another scam to put people into another bondage. In fact, the French Cameroon wants to abolish the English system in order to assimilate us and put us under their shoe. But this will bring another war. If the Ngute and his government want peace in Cameroon, first let them demilitarize. They cannot be talking of special status and they are organizing elections to be voted, and where governors, and Jews are still appointed in that same area, and they are talking of special status. Who are they fooling? Who are they fooling? I don't think what they are doing is correct, but let them try their luck. But I know most of them will meet their Waterloo on the way. They will go and they will not come back. Let's be realistic here. Thank you so much.
That's Mr. Brian Photo. He's joining us from Nigeria. Now, before I come back to you, Dr. Nick, let's take this last caller. Hello to you. I've been informed it's Sandrine Malung. I don't know if she's the one. Hello and thanks for joining us on the program. Sir, please, that call center, we're going to hold on a bit with that caller. Sir, please stay away from your TV, or you put off your TV set, or better still, mute the volume before you go ahead with your contribution.
This is Malum Sandrine. Looking at the topic of today, Madam Gina, I will first of all appreciate the effort of the Prime Minister, Dr. John Ngute, for taking out the pains to dispatch our able men of God, the bishops of the southwest and the northwest regions of Cameroon, to sensitize us or the people on the decisions arrived at during the Grand National Dialogue, of which one of the outcome was to grant a special status to the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon. My own humble contribution here is that if Cameroon really want to grant a special status to the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon, they should go by what Macau and Hong Kong have a special status in their respective countries. The government should be able to allow the English-speaking regions to own their own ID card, own their own passport, own their own police force, and also own their own currency. By so doing, I think, Madam Gina, it will go a long way to solve the ongoing crisis to an extent in the country. Thank you. This is my own little contribution. Have a blessed day.
Thank you so much, Sandrine Malung. And now let's get back to our panelist here in the studio, Dr. Nick Gwanyam. I would like you to react to some of these callers, but then the first, I'm going to add a question to it. One of the callers said the special status is a scam.
No, the special status is not a scam. You can only say it is a scam when you see the content.
Okay.
The special status is like, how do I put it? It's a container. It's a container. You cannot say a container is a scam. It's a container. It is the content in it that determines whether the whole thing is a scam or not. Until you have been given the content, you cannot say it's a scam. Because that thing called special status, again, as I said, is just a container. What is important is what will be put in it. And you see, the lady that just spoke was saying that whatever you do, go to Hong Kong and gather it, come and put in that box, then make sure these other elements are inside. Then it will begin to make some sense. So the issue we should be talking about now, what should be in a container that we call special status, so that to give it the meaning that we want. And you know, again, as I was saying, you know, we worked in a group that we came up with some 10 or 11 points that we put together with inspiration from the Quebec and many other places around the world. We put this thing together and tried to call it, you know, and gave it to the government to say, look, these elements probably could be that special status that we are looking for. But we did that job before the president's public declaration that the objective up until that time was assimilation, but now the assimilation agenda has been abandoned. If the assimilation agenda has been abandoned, then we need to add more content to what we wrote before, and then we can begin to ask for more things. And the furthest you can go in asking for something is a confederation. And when you are talking about a confederation, all these other issues that the lady talked about, you can add them in. You could even say that because we came as two states, West Cameroon and East Cameroon, it will be proper in that document of special status to define when an Anglophone will be a president and when a Francophone will be president of the nation. Or if we have agreed that because we have started to drink the wine of assimilation and that an Anglophone can never be the president, then we write in the constitution to say that you are an inferior person, you are second class, you can never be a president. So that from now going forward, we know where the Anglophone stands in the whole thing. Is it making some sense?
Yes.
Yes. So we need to define this thing and then, you know, bring down some clauses very heavily so that the boundaries are well defined.
Okay, Doc, now just a few people are commenting on, we have so many reactions on social media, be it Twitter, my account, and Facebook page. Now, we have some people talking about a special status like Quebec in Canada or Zanzibar in Tanzania. Do you think it's going to resemble any of this?
You know, every country is unique in its own way.
Yeah.
You can only draw inspiration and bring to your own, then you panel beat it to suit your purpose. You know, when we started, we actually read around, you know, we looked at a couple of things, but everybody's history is a little bit different, because most of the problems that have cropped were problems of history that, you know, we try to correct with this thing called special status, and one person's history is not exactly the other person's history. So the Quebec story was more like ours, because in Canada you have English and French, just exactly what we've got here, except of course that when you go to when you go to Canada, the 80% would be the English speaking, and then the 20% would be the French speaking. And they suffered the same minority issues. That's the French speaking, or the Francophones in Canada suffered the same issues like the Anglophones in Cameroon. And they started to fight that many years ago to try to correct that. So they came up with a document of theirs to secure themselves in that union of their own. But remember, Canada, when I was reading through the document, you know, they were making reference to the Queen and all some of these things, which don't make sense to us. We don't know about queens and kings here. So you see, so you cannot just go and take what is in Canada and bring here, because by the time you read the first sentence, they will tell you about something about the Queen, and we have no Queen, we have no king. So you see, you must panel beat it to suit you. And we are saying that when we come to the Cameroonian situation, we started as two equal states in 1961, and then the Anglophone had their culture, their territory, their whatever, and we existed as a federation that was abolished in 1972. And when the president said the program of assimilation has failed and that we should correct it, what he is saying is that we'll go back, because if you don't go back, you will not correct it. Let me give you a good example. Let's say you and I will leave Bamenda now, and the idea is that we should drive to Yaoundé. That's the initial idea. Two states start off the journey, and the idea is we'll stay as a federation and make sure that we respect each other. That's the gentleman's agreement. But we get to somewhere, we get to the Chang Junction. You know that Chang Junction?
Yes.
We get to the Chang Junction, and the driver decides to take the road through Chang. He's heading to Douala. The journey is no longer leading us to Yaoundé. So along the way, the passengers in the car and everybody are complaining and are beating the thing. He's kicking, you know, there's a big fight. He's kicking some around and locking some up and then doing all sorts of things. But we are on the trip to Douala. But the intent and purpose was to go to Yaoundé. It doesn't matter what we do. Even if we were to come to Douala and finally say, let's go to Yaoundé through Edea, we had never agreed to go through Edea. The reasonable thing to do is turn the car around, go back to the Chang Junction, go back to 1961, redirect your car towards Yaoundé, and the problem will be solved.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so very much, Dr. Nick, for coming, making time out of your very busy schedule to be here with us in the studio.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, fellow viewers, thank you all for watching. Thanks for participating. Join the conversation on our Facebook page, Afrique Media, with the others, or on my Twitter account, Agina Sondo. To all of you who watched and participated, thank you so much. And to the technicians here and the crew in the studio, thank you all so much. Now, from wherever you're watching us, it's goodbye for now.